The town of Dry Creek called her old maid Colette, a silver-haired spinster with nothing but a fading garden. She lived in a small cottage on the edge of town, surrounded by books, dried lavender, and quiet memories. Every Sunday, the church ladies whispered about her solitude, deeming it a shameful waste of a woman's life. Colette ignored them, her heart still echoing with the ancient lullaby her mother had sung before vanishing forever. The melody was her only inheritance, a haunting, wordless hum that seemed to still the very air around her. She never sang it publicly, for the world had taught her that her gifts were invisible and without value. Across the valley, widower Gideon Kane ran the largest horse ranch in the territory, a kingdom of dust and leather. He was a man carved from grief. His wife lost to fever 5 years ago, his heart sealed like a tomb. His only obsession was a magnificent black stallion named Diablo, captured wild and unbroken, a beast of pure fury. Diablo had thrown every cowboy, shattered bones, and killed 2 men who dared to enter his corral with whips. The stallion's reputation spread like poison, and the ranch hands demanded Gideon put the devil horse down. A crowd gathered on the appointed day, a morbid carnival eager to see the great beast's execution. Gideon stood with a rifle, his face unreadable, but his soul sickened by the waste of such power. Colette had come to deliver herbal tonic to the cook, but the stallion's screaming drew her toward the corral. She saw the terror in the animal's eyes, not madness, but a profound, broken fear that mirrored her own isolation. Without thinking, she slipped through the fence rails, ignoring the gasps and the shouted warnings of the stunned onlookers. Gideon raised his hand to stop her, but something in her quiet stride made him hesitate, rifle lowering slightly. Colette knelt in the dust, her bare feet anchoring her, and began to hum her mother's forgotten, wordless lullaby. The melody was low, a vibration that seemed to rise from the earth itself, ancient and utterly disarming. Diablo froze, his massive body trembling, his wild eyes locking onto the silver-haired woman who did not flinch. The crowd laughed nervously, expecting her to be trampled, but Gideon watched, breath held, a strange hope stirring. The stallion's ears swiveled forward, his nostrils flared, and the fury in his eyes dissolved into a confused, deep recognition. He took one step, then another, his great hooves silent now, his neck arching as the melody wrapped around him. Colette never stopped humming, her hands open on her knees, offering nothing but the steady rhythm of her ancient song. Diablo lowered his head, not in defeat, but in a bow, his muzzle pressing gently against her chest. The crowd fell silent, the laughter dying in their throats, replaced by a reverence none of them understood. Gideon felt tears burn his eyes, a sensation he hadn't known since burying his beloved wife. The stallion, the killer, the unbreakable demon, stood trembling with his head bowed to the town's most forgotten woman. Colette slowly raised her hand and stroked the velvet muzzle, still humming, and the beast sighed like a foal. She whispered that he was not a monster, just a soul who had never been listened to with kindness. Gideon walked into the corral, his rifle left in the dust, and knelt beside her without speaking. He asked her name, and she told him, and he said she had just saved more than a horse. He offered her a job training his horses, and the crowd murmured, but no one dared to mock now. She accepted, not for the money, but because Diablo had chosen her, and she would not abandon him. The days became weeks, and Colette transformed the ranch with her quiet, melodic presence and gentle, unwavering patience. She never used a whip, only to hum, and the horses responded with a devotion the cowboys had never witnessed. Gideon found himself lingering near the stables, watching her work, listening to the melody that haunted his healing heart. They shared meals on the porch, talking about loss, loneliness, and the strange, stubborn hope that persisted despite everything. He confessed he had forgotten how to speak to anyone after his wife died, until she arrived with her lullaby. She admitted she had believed she was invisible, a relic, until a wild stallion saw her and bowed. Their love was not a wildfire, but a slow, steady dawn, creeping over two souls who had accepted permanent night. The ranch hands, once skeptical, now called her the horse whisperer and brought her injured colts with reverent trust. Diablo remained her shadow, following her like a devoted dog, his wildness transformed into a majestic, protective loyalty. Only she could ride him, and they galloped across the pastures, her silver hair streaming like a banner of triumph. Gideon would watch from the fence, his heart full, knowing he was witnessing something sacred and utterly irreplaceable. One evening, under a canopy of stars, he took her hand and led her to the corral where they met. He knelt in the very dust where she had knelt, and he asked her to be his wife. She laughed, a sound like the lullaby itself, and said yes, her eyes glistening with a lifetime of deferred joy. The town that had called her old maid now celebrated her as the bride of the most respected rancher in the territory. The church ladies brought flowers, their whispers now kind, their judgment replaced by a humbled, genuine admiration. Colette wore a crown of wild lavender, and Diablo, adorned with ribbons, carried her to the ceremony. Gideon's vow spoke of a woman who taught him that gentleness is the greatest strength a soul can possess. Her vows recalled a stallion who saw her, and a man who looked beyond silver hair to find her heart. Their union was not just a marriage, but a resurrection. Two forgotten souls finding a love that defied all cruel labels. The ranch prospered, renamed Lullaby Ranch, and became a sanctuary for broken horses and the people who loved them. Colette taught the younger women that spinsterhood was not a curse, but a season, and their worth was not measured by marriage. Gideon built her a small music room where she could hum, and the sound drifted through the stables, calming every restless spirit. They took in orphan foals and orphan children, their home a haven of second chances and unending patient grace. Diablo grew old, his muzzle gray, but he still bowed only for her every morning as the sun rose. When he passed, they buried him under the oak where Colette had first stroked his trembling, magnificent head. She sang the lullaby one last time, and Gideon held her, their tears mingling with the ancient sacred dust. The legend of the old maid and the stallion spread, a story told to children who felt unseen and forgotten. It reminded everyone that the broken often recognize the brave, and a quiet song can conquer any fury. Colette and Gideon lived long, their love deepening with each passing year, a testament to patience and redemption. When they were old, they sat on the porch, listening to the wind hum through the valley like a lullaby. He would still look at her and see the woman who knelt in the dust and changed everything. She would tell him that he was the first person besides Diablo who truly saw her, and she was grateful. They passed within a week of each other, a final, merciful grace, their graves side by side under the oak. Their children continued the ranch, and a statue was erected, a woman humming, a stallion bowing, a man watching with love. The town that once mocked now boasts a plaque. Here, an old maid tamed a beast and a heart. The lullaby is still sung, passed down through generations, a melody that speaks of worth, bravery, and quiet power. So if you ever feel forgotten, remember Colette, and know that your song is waiting for the right ears. The world may call you names, but the wildest stallion might just bow when you offer your authentic, gentle self. Now please subscribe to Weston Taylor's Official and ring the bell for more stories that celebrate the unseen heroes. Tell me in the comments about a time when quiet courage changed your life, and I will read every word. Like and share this video if you believe it is never too late for love, for purpose, for a miracle. The dust settles, the lullaby fades, but the truth remains. The broken recognize the brave, and love conquers all. Thank you for witnessing the story of Colette, Gideon, and Diablo, a trinity of second chances and enduring grace.